And welcome to Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. It is show number 67. It is Marathon Sunday here in Eastern Pennsylvania, and it is show number 67. My name is Andrew Marotta, host of the show, and excited, very excited today. I have my brother on the show, Paul Marotta. Is joining us today, and he'll be with us here in a moment. It is November 4th for all of those that are listening live, and it's Marathon Sunday. New York City, here comes my man Baxter. New York City Marathon today, and that's really what we're going to talk about is the story of this marathon and my dad and my brother and all of these things that meant just so many important things to us. So, but before we tell that story and get started, a couple of shout outs. I know the Lebersky family is watching live. Many of our family members are watching live as this is an emotional day for us. And so I do want to give my family a shout out and our listeners and Voice Ed Radio Canada, and give a shout out to them. And I'd like to thank today's sponsor is catskillmarketing.com. And Catskill Marketing is a group that I signed on with, and I've done a lot of great things for me. Number one, helping me fix my internet, so I got a clear screen tonight, which is great. But Catskill Marketing offers a full range of sales and marketing services with a focus on website development, including e-commerce, social media management, and graphic design. Our other core strengths are overall marketing and sales strategy, CRM implementation, photography, video editing, email marketing, brand development, and search engine optimization. We partner with you to develop an affordable plan to increase your revenue. So they are working with me and all that I'm doing, and I'm very grateful for them. So you could contact them at info@catskillmarketing.com, and their number is 845-787-3927. And like all things out there, you can find them on Facebook. Shout out to Catskill Marketing Group. They've launched a new website for me, so I'm excited about that, andrewmarotta.com, and you could check that out. So let's get to it. Today is not only November 4th, my grandmother's, I believe it's 108th. I'll have Paul correct me if that's wrong. 108th birthday for my grandma. She's no longer with us, but it is her birthday. And I do want to recognize also the Success Hotline. My friend, Dr. Rob Gilbert, if, again, you're listening live, 973-743-4690. 973-743-4690. Left an amazing message about the story about my dad, and just, it was just tremendous. So check that out. And if you are listening on iTunes or somewhere else, you could go to successhotlinepodcast.com and you can hear that. So that's today's opening, is this great story of Paul and my dad and the marathon and the donating of the kidney. For the family and friends that are listening, you know the story. But if you're not one of those people and you don't know it, it's a tremendous story. And it began with my dad's health failing. He was not doing well, and he had diabetes. He had colon cancer. He had a number of things that have affected him over his lifetime, and he was overweight, not doing so well. And they basically told him he would either have to have a kidney transplant or go on dialysis. And he did not want to accept a kidney. He didn't want to put other people through that. And 8 of us got tested and to transplant. And my brother, being the first son in the Italian family, stepped up. There wasn't even a discussion. He just kind of said, "I'm doing it," and that's the end of the discussion. And my brother donated my dad a kidney. And when Paul comes on, he'll tell us the time frame of that. It's all a blur here. But Paul gave my dad a kidney and really resurrected his life. I said my dad was like a wilt flower, and then boom, it was like he gave a miracle grow, water, sun, and just my dad's whole life just came back, and he was a new person. And then he was like Forrest Gump, right? That scene in Forrest Gump where he just comes off the porch and starts running, right? And he says, "I was running Dad did that, but it was walking. He wanted to get in shape. He wanted to honor Paul for the kidney and really kind of get back to when he was younger. And he lost a tremendous amount of weight. And my dad, come and says, well, we're going to do the marathon. And we're like, what? He lost his vision. He couldn't see. He was overweight. And he comes out and says he's going to do the marathon. And we were all like, you're crazy. And fast forward, we did 4 marathons together. My brother, myself, and my dad. It was just a tremendous experience, and really, it was just great. So again, if you haven't seen it on YouTube, if you type in Joe Marotta Marathon, you can find that video. And we had a videographer with us. A shout out to Ahmed and Hoda, our friends in Canada, who filmed it, and just a tremendous video. And you can watch, the story. The ending. He does die at the end, which is a little sad, but that's what he would have wanted. He kind of did it his way, and always said he wanted to die at home, and he did die at home after finishing that marathon. And we're going to talk to Paul about his feelings on this and what it meant to him. But what it left me with is to finish what you started, right? He got back in shape. He became a marathoner, and with the help of the Achilles group, really went out there and became an athlete and just was a tremendous story. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for my brother, for what he did for our family and our dad. And I know my mom is eternally grateful, and it's just a tremendous story. So today's story is about organ donation. Today's story is about love. Today's show is about your family and all those important things. So let's meet Paul. Let's bring Paul in here. And bam, there he is. Hey, Paul, welcome to the program.
Hi, everybody.
I know you got a lot going on. This is Paul Marotta, everyone. And he just had a baby boy here 3 days ago, right, Paul?
Yes, 3 days ago. Pretty exciting times here in the Marotta home.
Very exciting. And it's very quiet there. There's no screaming. There's no yelling. The baby must be doing well. Baby James is doing well.
Yes, he is.
Paul, I appreciate you making time. You have so many things going on. You just moved into a new home. You just had a new baby. And we also just went through a couple of emotional days. We are at the 10-year anniversary of losing Dad. I know I watched the video this weekend. But what does today mean to you, Paul, the Marathon Sunday, and to know that it was 10 years to the day that we lost Dad?
Marathon Sunday is one of my, believe it or not, favorite days of the year. The marathon shows hope. It shows spirit. It shows the can-do attitude. It kind of unites New York City for all things good.
And specifically today, Paul, though, is it 10 years and thinking about Dad? What feelings does that bring back for you?
It's an emotional day. There's not a day that goes by that I don't miss him. I wish he could meet my new son.
Don't start crying. If you start crying, I'm going to start crying.
But my wife Brandy was a few days overdue. He was actually scheduled to arrive on October 27th. And our sister Suzanne texted me, I want to say maybe it was either October 30th or Halloween morning. And she said, Daddy's not ready to give him up yet. Yeah, she did say him. She said, Daddy's not ready to give him up yet. And it really brought a smile and touched my heart when he said that, when Suzanne said that.
Yeah. Well, and Daddy would certainly be thrilled having a boy, Paul, let's talk about the donation, right? Now help me put the time frame. What year did you give the kidney?
I want to say it might have been 2004.
2004. So Daddy lived 4 years with your kidney.
Yes.
Okay. And go through that with us, Paul, again. And like, I know we didn't have much discussion with it because you just said you're doing it and you did it. It was a good match. What did that mean for you personally to be able to give Dad the kidney?
Well, there was a couple of things. I know we all went for testing, including Aunt Marianne went for testing, and our sisters and brothers all went for testing, and we were all equal matches, 3 out of 6 on the genetic marking. And I remember them saying that something to the point that if you were going to have a baby, meaning if you were going to carry a baby, having one kidney can put a lot of extra stress on the body. So that instantly threw off our two sisters. And then when you and I were equal, like you said in your opening, with me being the firstborn in an Italian family, there was no discussion. And for not very many times in my life, I kind of pulled the big brother card and said, we're not having this discussion. I remember it clearly. We were on the phone. And the harder discussion, believe it or not, was with Dad, was where he didn't want to accept it. And he didn't want me to, or any of us to go through any of this, because you're going into the hospital as a very healthy individual and you're leaving not a healthy individual. And he knew that. And so then I told him, well, what I also heard when we went for the class was that if anybody gave a kidney, he would move up to the top of the list. So I told him either he was going to get mine or he was going to get a stranger's, because I was donating anyway, so that he could be to the top of the list.
I didn't
And
know
it was only then that he agreed to do this, because he knew I'm stubborn just like he was, and that I was going to do it anyway.
Nice. Paul, you're either shrinking or the computer is going down. Move yourself up so you're a little higher. There you go.
Is that better?
Yeah. Paul, did you feel closer to Dad afterwards?
I was just telling Brandy this the other day, actually when we were in the hospital. I had remembered they kept us on not only separate rooms, but separate floors of the Columbia Presbyterian Hospital on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And they did that because obviously we had the same last name and both had kidney surgery, so they didn't want to screw up any meds. But they let me go see him, and it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I walked up to the other floor. It took me a while to get up there, but I walked up there and we sat and we talked. And I want to say we talked for 10 hours or so. And we just talked about life and this and that. And that was I still remember that night or that morning, and it was very close. And from that moment on, we've been different, but very close.
Yeah. And Paul, I talked about this notification keeps popping up. Sorry. I talked about what the kidney did for Dad and how it kind of changed his life. And he did so many things to be more healthy because of it. But it also sparked this marathon, and you had some life changes also. You went from the famous 280, right? Paul, your nickname used to be 280. But you became a marathon runner after this experience of doing the marathons with Dad. Tell me about that transformation of your life. And again, starting with donating that kidney and you trying to lead a more healthy lifestyle also. This whole experience transformed your life as well.
Yeah. So a couple of things happened. One, I used to play rugby with the Village Lions out of New York City. And one of the things the doctors recommended was that I no longer play this game that I loved, which I obliged, and I still play from time to time, but not at the level of the Village Lions out of New York City. And so I found myself missing and lacking something, and then I saw the example that our dad set for us. And so after he had died, I had decided I wanted to try and run the New York City Marathon. And I didn't know the first thing about running or anything. And so I did what he did, except, he walked and I said, okay, let's start running. And I learned really quickly that there's no better competitor than yourself. And that your body can push you and take you places that you never believed you could go. And I'm sure that's what our dad felt, that I remembered him a couple of times, Andrew, you remember when there would be somebody in front of me, oh, let's go get that person. They don't belong in front of us. And to this day, I still do that. I call it fishing. I find somebody in front of me that doesn't belong there, and then I go and catch them.
Nice.
And it's something I tried to pass on to Caitlin, who is now also running a lot, to go fishing.
Well, you and Suzanne have certainly developed a love of running, and very passionate about it. And besides the competitiveness, Paul, what is it else that you love about it? Because you've gotten so into it. You've ran how many marathons and have been to how many different cities to run? I mean, I know you did the Disney thing, and you've done a bunch in Long Island. How many have you done total?
So I've completed 30 marathons, about 10 New York City marathons, and I've traveled to. I've run marathons in Philadelphia, DC, 2 in Minneapolis, and like you said, I've done the Dopey Challenge in Disney World and the Goofy Challenge in Disney World. Dopey
Incredible.
being a 5K, followed by a 10K, followed by a half, followed by a full in 4 days.
So, Paul, other than the competition, there's got to be something else that gets going in you that makes you want to run 26.2 miles and put all that time and effort into it. What is it that has got you so passionate about it?
Well, the training, it's a rigorous schedule to follow to be able to complete a marathon, and you put a lot of time in, but it's on your schedule, which makes it easier. It's not on somebody else's time; it's on your time, so you can plan accordingly. But it's simple. It's putting one step in front, one foot in front of the other. It's one breath, one step, 1 mile at a time, and it's the ability to be quiet, to think, to soul search, to ask yourself questions. And it's like I ask anybody that tells me, Paul, I want to run a marathon. How do I do it? The first thing I tell them is to go look at themselves in the mirror and say, and tell yourself that you want to do this, because there's no lying to yourself. And it's that ability to soul search and really meditate while you're running, and you'd be surprised how quickly those hours and those miles can click by when you're thinking.
Yeah. Paul, let's shift gears a little bit. Again, the timing of the date that we lost Dad, and then boom, you have a son, last name Marotta. What does this mean to you and your wife that you have a baby boy, a healthy baby boy here?
I met Brandy a few years ago when I was in a dark place in my life, and about a year ago, she agreed to be my wife. She had moved here from Minneapolis, and she's been my rock, my everything. And the ability I used to tease her when we were dating that one day you're going to have a boy and he's going to look up at you and he's going to say, Mommy, I want to have some ice cream. And you're going to be the one that has to tell him no. And a dream came true the other morning when little James arrived. And then I told Brandy that she's going to have to, what is she going to say when he wants ice cream? And then she said, you're going to have to go ask your dad.
Your cousin Denise is telling you to stop crying.
Hi, Dee.
Paul, if Dad were here, what advice do you think he would give you on being a new father and having a boy?
Oh, one, I don't think it matters that it's a boy or girl with him. He loved all of us equally and all of his grandchildren equally. I don't know, maybe he liked Missy or Allie more because he's always said that Allie was his best friend, but now Allie's my best friend. So I don't know if you're listening, Allie, but you're my best friend. But he would tell us to be a good role model for our family, for our children, and for our community, to do what's right. And those are things I still follow today. And I remember him telling me, people will watch what you do, but don't rest on yesterday's news because it's under the birdcage. The newspaper is under the birdcage. And he would also say SPS, which means self-praise stinks. And, do what's right. And if more than 2 people know about what it is, if you do something good, then that's one person too many. And that's what I try and do, and I know that's what he tries to taught us to do, and just again set a good example for others to follow.
He also used to say, make sure you have a quarter. And I'd say, why? I said, so you could call someone else, because don't call me if you get yourself in trouble.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Paul, the name of the show is called Education, Leadership, and Beyond. And, you're a teacher to your children and your family, but in your professional life, you're a chemist at Estee Lauder. You're a lead chemist of the mascara team. But tell me about look who is on the show there. Look at that. Well, hello there, James. You are the first newborn on the show. What would you like to say, James? That's not bad. Oh, beautiful. Well, thanks for coming, James. Look, he's getting a lot of shout outs now. So, Paul, tell me about how do you display leadership at your job?
Well, let's just go back before I answer that question. One of the best things about Estee Lauder is that it is a publicly held company, but it is not a publicly held company. It is still a family company. We still see the Lauder family from time to time, and they are actively involved in what they're doing. And they set the example of family is always first. And, that's why I'm able to be home this week and to be able to be with my family, knowing that my team is running the lab and running what needs to happen. And what I've learned in running a team and running a team that develops products for every single makeup brand is that you're nobody without your team. They teach me more than I teach them, and I have to learn more to shut my mouth and listen to what they have to say than them listening to what I have to say.
I like that.
They're the ones that are on the front lines, and it's my job just to course correct and get out of their way, because they are phenomenal people with a great touch of what is going on within the mascara marketplace.
And you've become friends with so many of them also. I mean, you've really grown close with them. And to see that professional yet friendships is a very special thing to be able to have both in the same person.
Yes. And it's cool, because there are times when you have to have that difficult discussion, and then the next thing you know, they're coming over to visit you at the hospital because you just had a baby boy. Nice. And it's because at the end of the day, we all mean to do the right thing. And it's my job to be the boss, is only to course correct and to realign priorities, and then to get out of their way.
Paul, I know you know my good friend Francis Sellis. He's a cardiologist. He's been on the show. And I asked him this question. I said, Francis, what do you do when you have a subpar employee within your group that's not getting the job done? And his answer to me was immediate. He said, hey, Andrew, they wouldn't even be in the room. And it was like, wow, that's terrific. But what about on your job? What if someone is making an error or messes up a big batch, as you call them? How do you deal with mistakes on the job there? That's costing a lot of money.
Well, there's a couple of things. One, you have to make the environment of that there is no such thing as a mistake. I mean, yes, there are mistakes, but there is no such thing as a mistake, because you're inventing. And if you hit the ball 3 out of 10 times in baseball, you're a Hall of Famer. Well, the same thing is true in cosmetic science, but it's maybe 1 out of 10. And, yes, we're chemists, but, one of the old people taught me, we do try chemistry, which is you try this and you try that. And you don't want to create an environment where people are afraid to fail, because you will fail. But what we practice to preach is to fail quick and to fail first, and to be able to learn when to move on from this line of experimentation and when to transfer. The problem really is that when you find somebody who doesn't have the passion you have, and having to move quickly from that person without the passion, because then they better learn quickly that maybe cosmetic science or Estee Lauder companies is not for them.
And Paul, how do you manage continuing to make something that's good for the company and then also find time to kind of make something new?
Well, we service many different makeup brands, so there is a market for all different types of products within this. Um, so to that point is what we try and allow is to have free thought every day, allow people to research what it is that brings them passion, however, make sure it's business relevant.
Yeah.
And again, that's one of my jobs is to rein that in whenever possible, because unfortunately we're not a university where we can just do pure research. There has to be an end goal. And one of the questions, and I have a series of 3 questions that are on the back, 4 questions that are on the back of the door when they leave the lab every day. And one of them is it brand specific, and can you plus it?
What does
And
that
that
mean?
is, can you add a little bit of magic to it? Is good enough? And can you put a little bit of magic in it? And one example is, if I'm making this up, but if pomegranate extract is hot right now, is there any other type of extract that is hot? Is pomegranate and green tea the right choice? Not just settle on pomegranate. Just a random example, but
Yeah. And Paul, how did you get to the mascara team? Like, I mean, you went to college, you played rugby, you were a chemistry major, you didn't have a passion for mascara. How did you get on that team and just continue to grow in that team?
well, one thing I was always good at and came natural to me was doing puzzles. And formulating mascara is very much like a puzzle. There are an infinite number of combinations you can do, and it's very hard. Where do you start? What parts do you lock in on? And I remember Dad saying, first thing you do is you find the 4 corners, then you build the outside, and then you find light colors. And that's exactly like how mascara development is you lock in on a certain part, and then you keep moving forward, but understanding you're not making it for you or your team, you're making it for a consumer, and you have to make sure you understand what it is the consumer wants. Mr. Henry Ford said if he would have asked his customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse and not a car. So how do you understand what your consumer wants and give them what they want, even though they're telling you, again, they want a faster horse?
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's a good, I hadn't heard that. That's good. That's good. Paul, you mentioned your wife, Brandy. I know she's watching live and she got James there. Thanks for allowing James to visit. But she's brought so much into your life that's different for you, including,
Yes.
geography, like going out west, was something new. Tell me about what you've learned about life out west and what's different out there and what have you grown to like about those areas?
I'll give you a little bit of background. First, it's the Midwest, not the West. So,
And hey,
and
it's west of us.
but when I exactly when I used to, growing up in New York, you see a map of the United States, and there's New York, Florida, California, Vegas, and then corn, 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 corn. But what I've learned is there's a lot more than corn there. There are good people there that have good values that really feed this country of ours. Um, but you know what's funny? They have commercials that are specific to the Midwest that make fun of New Yorkers.
Oh yeah.
They mock us. They think we're an aggressive group, but that's okay. I mean, they can have their fun. I mean, the Yankees beat the Twins a lot, and everybody's jealous of the Yankees, so that's okay.
What has been an area that you've really liked? I mean, I know Colorado and Minnesota. What's been an area that you've grown to like?
It's, what I learned about Minnesota is they don't hibernate in the winter. They celebrate all 4 seasons. They go out, they enjoy the winter sports, they participate in the winter sports. They don't sit at home and complain. When it's cold here in New York, people say, "Oh, I can't go outside, I can't do this." But in those parts of the country, they really do celebrate all 4 seasons and continue to do things that are fun. There's also a good sense of community and neighborhood, and all of the people watch out for each other. And the same holds true for Colorado, where you see them enjoying the winter sports as much as they love the summer sports.
Yeah, it really is beautiful country, and I've been blessed to visit there as well. You have trips coming out soon here? I mean, I know James is with you, but I'm sure they're going to want to meet James out in the Midwest.
Well, one of the things that's been cool is, I learned to ski in upstate New York, going once, twice a year with just a couple of bunch of friends. But Brandy, being from an avid skiing family, over the past 2 years, she has taught Josie and Bella how to ski, and the girls have grown quite fond of that. And we're looking forward to Josie and Bella for the first time joining the McRae family out in Colorado on their annual ski trip.
Nice.
But just before that, we will be heading out to Minnesota for the Christmas time, where the girls will be traveling again with James and enjoying the Christmas season over in Minnesota.
Paul, before we get to the rapid fire portion of the show, you have several passions that we've talked about in your life, running, the chemistry, rugby, but something that you did when you were younger that I chose not to do, but you did and got to the highest level, was scouting and becoming an Eagle Scout. And I remember when you talked about your interview at Estee Lauder, at how much Mr. Lauder spoke about being an Eagle Scout in the interview. It wasn't so much about chemistry, but more so that you were an Eagle Scout. Tell me what impacted that reaching the level of Eagle Scout has had on your life.
Oh, the Boy Scouts, and not just being an Eagle Scout, but the Boy Scouts has taught me a lot in life. Growing up again in inner New York City, well, not inner New York City, but New York City, being in the Boy Scouts exposed me to a lot of things that even still helps me to this day, from learning how to build a fire and taking care of yourself and cleaning up after yourself and washing with yourself and learning how to cook by yourself, and learning how to also be a man and to be trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, and thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. But, Brandy and I have taken the girls camping this year, and I was teaching them the same lessons that I was taught when I was their age in the Boy Scouts. And it teaches you a lot of things. Like, for example, today, Bella and we had a flag that we put up, a boy flag, and I took down my American flag, and I was teaching Bella how to properly fold the flag. And again, it's another little lesson that I learned with the Scouts, but it's something that is potentially lacking from today's youth, that I wish that more people would be involved and be more aware of their environment and more aware of the outdoors and patriotism and doing the right thing when sometimes it's harder.
And who pushed you to be Eagle Scout? Was it Uncle Peter? Was it our cousins, Michael and Peter? Who pushed you to say, hey, this is something you really should do?
Well, it wasn't, they set a proper example, and Uncle Peter was always there supporting me, and Michael and Peter they were Eagle Scouts, and I remember them telling me there's not a Marotta boy that is not an Eagle Scout. But it was Dad that, like you said when you did your opening, if you start something, you finish something. I was involved also with a good group of friends, and it was fun. Playing with fire and pocket knives, and it was fun. Yeah, maybe I didn't do other things, but again, through scouting, I learned how to ski, and it brought value to the life. And I started to see that as I got a little bit older, and it was a good lesson. But again, it was starting what you finished.
Cool. Paula, let's get to the rapid fire portion of the show. These are quick answers. The first thing that kind of comes to your head, okay? I know you haven't had much sleep lately, so let's do the best you can, all right?
All right, giddy up. Here we go.
The last book you read?
Oh, the James Patterson of the what's his name? The Cross series.
Okay, yeah, Mom likes that too.
Alex Cross series.
The last movie you saw?
Han Solo.
What do you give that out of 10? 10 is the best Star Wars movie ever. One is
No, you can't say that. It was.
what do you give it? What do you give it out of 10?
I enjoyed it, so I'd give it a 7.
Okay. Favorite place to travel?
I love the city of Florence. I'm looking forward to going back with Brandy.
Nice. You can visit San Gimignano. Best thing about being a chemist at Estee Lauder?
The people.
The worst thing about being a chemist at Estee Lauder?
Dealing with political situations that sometimes have to occur.
Something that motivates you is?
My dad.
There you go. 3 most important qualities of a good chemist?
Vision, the ability to cook, and the ability to listen.
I like that answer. Best New York Giant of all time?
Lawrence Taylor. He may not have been the best football player. I don't know if he was the best role model, but he was the best football player. People went from wearing offensive jerseys to wearing defensive jerseys.
Yeah, yeah. Best thing about having season tickets to the New York Giants?
Being able to go to any game you want to go to.
Yeah. Besides your job and your family, what is something that you are most proud of?
30-time marathoner. Hall of Fame with the Village Lions Rugby Football Club.
I didn't know you were in the Hall of Fame. Very cool. And I know you did a lot of marathons. I didn't realize it was 30.
And the Village Lions are 25 years old, and to be able to name to the 25-year-old team, meaning I was the best at my position in the 25 years.
Very cool. Short-term personal goal, 3 to 5 months.
Become a better father.
Long-term personal goal, 3 to 5 years.
Become a better father and a better husband.
Well, Paul, that will lead me then to the quote here. I know you have a quote for us also, but I'll read this quote for you. Someone gave it to me when I had a son, and I'm going to give it to you and our listeners. It's called Little Eyes Upon You. And it goes like this. Little eyes upon you. There are little eyes upon you, and they're watching you night and day. There are little ears that quickly take in every word you say. There are little hands all eager to do anything you do. And a little boy who's dreaming of the day he'll be just like you. You're the little fellow's idol. You're the wisest of the wise. In his little mind about you, no suspicions ever rise. You are setting an example every day in all you do for the little boy who's waiting to grow up just like you.
Yep.
So your little man, James, I'm looking forward to meeting him. But I know you have a quote for us all also, Paul, that you use one of your favorite characters in the movie world, but also in real life.
Yeah, but before I give you that quote, I always said, it's very similar to this quote, and I've told a lot of people this, and sometimes from time to time you hear, "Oh, that's a bad kid." In my opinion, there's no such thing as bad children. There's only bad parenting, and that's something I try and live closely by, and it's important to me. So your little quote there kind of echoes exactly what I was thinking.
I like it.
But one of my quotes, and it's on my every email I send at the bottom, and I try and live by this too. It says, "Pass on what you have learned, strength, mastery, but weakness, folly, failure also. Yes, failure most of all. The greatest teacher failure is." And that was by Jedi Master Yoda. But if you think about that, you learn a lot more from your failures than you do your successes. And that's what I try and teach my team all the time is, the reason I know a lot of things is because I failed hard and I failed often. And learn from that and just, don't be stupid and make the same mistake twice, because the person that's doing your job at a different company is already a day ahead of you.
Nice. Paul, you talked about being a better father and learning from that. And one of the gifts I'm going to give you is today's book recommendation. This is a great book, and it is called 52 Things Kids Need from a Dad. And it's by Jay, I don't know how to pronounce this, Pate Leitner. I'm going to have Jay on the show one of these days, but I'm bringing this to you when I come see you. And this is today's recommendation. So if you're a father out there, come check this out. Jay Patliner, 52 Things Kids Need from a Dad. So Paul, we're at the end of the show. I'm really thankful that you made time for this. I know you haven't had a chance to even get some rest. So I appreciate the time you made today.
Thank you, Andrew. It's been fun.
And, Paul, again, it's Marathon Sunday. 10 years since Dad's passing, I think he would be really proud of you. I think he'd be proud of me and our family. And it's important that we continue to go on and do good things in Dad's name. So let's continue to do that.
Yeah, but don't forget SPS, self-praise stinks. And what you did yesterday is on the bottom of the birdcage already today.
Yeah, he did used to say that a lot. Yeah. So. All right, Paul, we are going to sign off here. This is Education, Leadership, and Beyond, Surviving and Thriving. My name is Andrew Marotta, host of the show. You can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Marotta21. Paul, do you have any social medias if there's any chemistry people out there? Are you doing any of that kind of stuff?
Just on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is the best way.
Okay, so they could reach out to you on LinkedIn there. I'm thankful for Paul for being on the show, and best to your son, Paul, and your wife, and certainly Josie and Bella as well.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
All right, we are signing off on Education, Leadership, and Beyond. Continue to go out and change the world for the better, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.